And and good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Pattison Ave Phanatics Show. I am your host, James Scorza, on this beautiful Saturday morning, rather, of must-see Philly sports action. With me, as always, is the group of companions on this Saturday morning: Frank Finnegan,
Good morning.
Damon Salim,
Good morning. Happy Saturday.
and the man of the hour, Joey Marks. What's going on, my friend?
Good morning, Philadelphia. Happy Saturday. And those pesky Guardians need to go guard something.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to get to on this very important Saturday. We got the Phillies. I guess you would say a stretch run, looking to try to get back to the postseason, and especially in crunch time when it matters the most. Eagles training camp just days away, and the Sixers drama. Boy, where do we begin with that? But we got a lot to get to on this beautiful Saturday. Where do we begin?
Yeah, we do. And before we get started, I want to make an announcement to everybody who's watching and listening. So,
Absolutely.
our fearless leader, who has been a guy who has been a benchmark for this show since its inception, a guy who
Yep.
I've known for 30 years, and he's got to step away for his health, for his family, and I completely understand. Tom Kelly, um, I always kind of sign off from this show by saying later. And there's a reason for that because I don't believe in goodbyes. I don't believe in farewells. I believe that I will see you later. I believe that Tom will be back and back in action once he gets some of the ducks in row that he needs to get in line. But
Mhm.
until then, we're gonna hold it down and we're gonna strengthen the core and we're gonna build the foundation just as he had wanted to build it. I know and I love him and that's a guy who's my wingman and forever will be my wingman.
Yep.
And I think what he's done for this show you can't really replace it, at all. So the only thing you can do is just hope to live up to it. And that's what we all are going to try to hope to do going forward with the show. So
Right.
I want to wish good wishes to our friend and brother Tom Kelly. Um, do your thing, brother, and we'll see you down the road.
Well said,
Um,
Joey. Well said.
so
Yeah.
we're going to start with the
We'll
76ers.
wish him the best, and I'm
Yep.
hoping he'll be back soon.
Yeah, I hope
Yep.
so too. Uh,
Yep.
yep.
I mean, I wouldn't be here without him. So,
Yep. I wouldn't be here without him either, Frank.
Copy that.
I
Ditto.
mean, I'll be honest. Like to kind of give a little bit of a backstory for people that don't know this story. Um, about a little more than 5 years ago, um, the Philadelphia Eagles were on their way to the Super Bowl, and they were still in the midst of the playoffs. And I was in the middle of a kind of I guess a hiatus, but it was more than that. And so I was just kind of puttering around and I wasn't really doing much. And Tom was in between jobs and he was kind of puttering around. And Will was working, but like he was probably more fired up than both me and Tom from time to time.
Right.
And we had this idea for a while and just never pulled the trigger on it. And we talked about it. We sat in a bar several times and said, we should do this. And it's like anything else. Sometimes when you say something to your friends, you say you're going to do it over a couple beers. You get drunk and you forget what you said the night before.
Right.
I think that happened a lot of times with me,
been
Will, and
there.
Tom. Yeah. I think that happened many times with me, Will, and Tom. And then Tom comes to me and we sit down and he says, I think we really need to go. I think the stars are aligned for us to start to try this adventure. And
Yep.
I go, okay, let's give it a go. I mean, I don't know if people are gonna like it or even gonna want to watch or will listen or anything like that, but okay. I mean, we literally started it by saying, why can't we have a podcast that sounds like that eavesdrops on what we sound like when we're all talking at the bar. And that's where it started.
Right.
That's why, like, Bob Cooney has even been on this show. He's like, I love you guys and the way that you guys pre-game before a show. And obviously, that's when we were like at night and pre-gaming at 9 a.m. I know that there's a saying between me and Tom, beer for breakfast around here, but I need my coffee before I need my beer. But
Here.
yeah, I mean, look, this started kind of from that onset, and it kind of snowballed from there. And we're so grateful for like the people like Frank and Damon and Dave and Will and Rob and Pat, like all these people that have come along, and James, you too. Like, but I don't with James, it's interesting. James came on and it was like a sitcom. It was like you bring in a new character and the writers don't think the character is going to stick. And
Right.
James just was like that character that we didn't think was going to stick, but sure enough, he became like the Uncle Jesse in this Full House. So so
That's a good
that's
line,
kind of
man.
where that's kind of where this has kind of precipitated to where we are today. And look, for all those people that are listening and watching, let me reassure you that we are going to continue to build. The Eagle season is coming. There are a
Yes, sir.
lot of things that this show has working on the horizon that is going to make things very, very exciting. So just stay tuned, buckle up, and things are going to get more interesting. But speaking of things being interesting,
Oh boy.
your Philadelphia 76ers. Now, I am used to putting my foot in my mouth or putting my foot in it more times than I can count. But Joel Embiid, dude, you got to watch what you say, because this city is like a lawyer. They will listen to every word you have to say and rip it apart. You may not be on the stand, and you may not have taken an oath to speak all the truth, but we will put you on the stand. So I got to start with this: the reports and the recording from him doing an interview at a film festival this past week had him saying that he would want to win a championship, whether it's in Philly or somewhere else. I'll start with you, Damon. Is this thing overblown, or is this thing just Joe being straight out truthful?
It's overblown, but it's a little bit truth to it. And the way I took it, and they talked about it, was more the business side. And I don't think I know people are looking for something for him, to kind of put him in the same class as the Hardens, the Durants, and all those dudes. But I just don't feel that from him, for a number of reasons. Because when the Sixers drafted him, he was going through a lot, losing his brother, having the injuries back to back, and they were patient with him. And I think that says a lot about us as one, as a fan base, we were patient, and then two, the organization, because they knew what they had. I remember listening to Mark Zumoff on the Best Show Ever a few months ago, saying, during that time that when he was practicing, they were like, wow, we got something here. And truth be told, and I share this with you, they shut him down the second year. He could have come back. They just wanted him to wait it out. With that being said, I think when he talked about elsewhere, the way I took it, and I listened to it a few times, was that organizations can one day say, hey man, we could trade you. But I don't necessarily think he's the one trying to set up a trade. I don't see him there. I just don't see him there. And I could be wrong, but I just don't feel that.
Gotcha.
Frank, do you think this is overblown, or you think it's truth?
You always got to think that there's a grain of truth in it, and the reason being is that you put yourself in Joel's position. the organization hasn't made the right moves. They have tried to reconstruct this team several different ways to facilitate his skills and ability, and they haven't been able to do it. It doesn't mean it's the organization's fault, but you can understand as a player, you're looking at it and you're 8 years in now, and you're like, they just can't get it. I mean, I can understand him being frustrated with what's happening, but and he's not without blame for some of the falls that happen. But it doesn't surprise me. I mean, that is the nature of the NBA player. They're always looking where the grass is greener. That being said, I think that Joel has always been outspoken, and he's always been honest when he talks. So even sarcastically when he talks. So I don't think it means much, but I think the organization better take it as a warning shot. That hey, we need to get this right, or he's going to walk. He's going to find a way to get out of here. So maybe it's his way of saying to the organization, look, I need to see something else here. Who knows? It doesn't make me happy, when a player says something like that.
Yeah, I don't think it makes anybody happy, especially once your star, like your like James came over, but Embiid's our guy. Like he's the homegrown guy. He's the guy we chose, and so there's a big difference in a distinction. James, I'll start with you with this question. So that being said, with what Embiid said and kind of the structure and the struggles and kind of where this roster is right now and some of the struggles that it seems like where this roster could be trending. Do you feel like this roster as currently constructed, do you think it's trending upward or backward? And if it's trending backward, do you feel like Embiid's statement could be kind of that open door for someone like Morey to possibly open up negotiations to trade Embiid? Because in order to go, forward, you may have to go backward a little. So, the first question is: do you think that this Sixers roster is trending upward or backward?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit interesting when you think about it, because it's like that Embiid quote was kind of like came out of left field. It's like, like my dad takes it to, like, I think he's taking it like basically like, if you don't want to play here, then get out of here. Basically, if you don't want to be a part of the play, not the process. Obviously, we're not doing that again, but overall. But I think what Embiid is trying to say is that I probably need a couple more talent than just James Harden. If you want to build around a team, like, I would be better off if the team would be built around Maxey and Embiid instead of Harden, because I think Harden just flat out doesn't want to be here, and I think it's already proven that the fat suit's going to come back into the wing again. Because I hate to say it, but the Embiid quote, like I said, it's a little bit interesting to say, because it's just I understand his frustration. But at the same time, it's like, you haven't done very much of like anything. The only thing you just do is just, I hate to say the words, but it's like a Donovan McNabb situation, that like he said in Game 7.
I don't think it's gone that bad.
Well, I wouldn't say that either, but it's like when he said in Game 7 that me and James Harden can't do it ourselves. It's like, well, we showed our youth today, and that's how I looked at it too. But at the same time,
yeah,
I think
I look at that comment. I look at that comment as emotions of the moment.
Yeah.
I don't put too much stock in that.
Right.
Do you guys feel like this
team's
trending upward? Frank, do you by saying that, do you think, because think of it from a business side, is this team trending upward or backward?
I don't think so.
They're going to take a step back this year for sure. They might even take 2 steps back.
Definitely.
I need to see I mean, look, if you're going to trade Embiid, you're not going to get your
Good
value
morning,
for him.
Mike. Happy belated
You're just
anniversary
not
to
going to
you,
get what he's worth.
I mean, that's
So,
the thing. So, Damon, I
I
know you've
think
been passionate about
Mhm.
this, but with Embiid and the possible like comment and way that this team could be trending as far as what the roster look like
Mhm.
and what we still don't know we could get or might get or even get with a Harden trade. Do you feel like this team's trending upwards or backwards? And if it's trending backwards, and I know that this is going to hit a nerve with you, but does
Mm.
if they're trending backwards, is the best move to trade the biggest piece while the market's really good for him?
No.
no,
You're not, unless you, and I'm being honest, unless you give me a 23-year-old Michael Jordan, I ain't doing it. Because it makes no sense. All you're gonna
you're not going to get your value for him.
you're not gonna get your value. What you have to do instead of looking towards the future, let me go back to your question. Are they trending up? So let's look at the roster as constructed. And I still stand at the top 3 team in the East as constructed. You still have the MVP. You still have Maxey. You have a Nick Nurse. Okay. And I use the example of Del Harris coaching that Lakers team, couldn't get him over the hump. They bring in Phil. He gets them over the hump. Then it dawned on me, oh, by the way, Nick Nurse does the same thing. When they let forget the coach that went to Detroit, I can't get his name out, from Toronto, even though he had Kawhi, Nick Nurse comes in and they win. And then the next season, even though Kawhi left, Nick Nurse got coach of the year. I think people are overlooking that. I get people are saying, oh, we didn't get this player. Here's the other thing, Joe. And Maury touched upon it this week because they're in a good position. You have 2 max slots coming off the books next year.
Mhm.
So what you do this year, you sort of run it back. It's okay if Harden leaves because when Nurse is going to do something different with this team. You may have the same team, but you're going to have a different makeup in terms of how the team operates with a very good coach, by the way. So I'm looking at that and going, let's see where he takes us. And then no matter what, you still have those 2 open slots with a better free agency class next year. So it behooves Joe to go out and ball as he does, behooves Maxey to go out and ball as he does. It behooves Tobias, Nurse, whomever to go out and perform well so them players can go, yo, Philly's that close. I want that. Because the money's going to be there. So we're in a better position than most people think.
I mean, I understand that too.
Dame, isn't Maxey up for contract next year?
Yep, and it was stated. So how it goes is because he's out.
He's going to be one of the max spots.
It was said, Frank. I listened to it clearly. You can still sign the 2 max slots and still sign Maxey because he's already technically yours. So you
you say okay.
Yeah, you still have those slots, which is $80 million, and you still be able to sign Maxey. They're in a good position. I listen. I give Maury credit because.
All right, so if I'm the Sixers,
Mhm.
if I'm the Sixers, then I'm looking on the market next year, the best available point guard and the best available athletic free.
I need a wing. And guess who I'm looking at? JB. I'm looking at Jaylen Brown. Brown. I got to start with him. It's Jaylen Brown. I forget the other guys. It's
I can't see Boston letting him go.
I could. You're not going to be able to afford to keep Tatum and Brown because Brown's not happy in Boston. He's made that clear. He's not happy there.
I think it's 50-50.
Well,
I'd love to have Jaylen Brown. That'd be awesome.
He could still sign with Boston. I mean,
yeah.
But to your point, Joe, he might look at it.
I know that him and Tatum have issues.
Well, think about it.
Tatum do have issues.
I mean, Dame and Frank, I think you have, more than one child. Like, when you have more than one child, sometimes they're vying for who the head child is, like who gets the most attention. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like I had an older brother, and yeah,
Yeah.
we were quite a bit of age difference, like 11 years, but we both vied for our parents' attention. And like that's the difference. Like I used my cuteness, my brother used his smarts. It was different. Um
Yeah.
so
I'm saying
you know
something. I'm
like
just gonna keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
so like that's the thing is I think Tatum is the cute one, and I think Brown is the smart one, and I think Brown sees it as I'm tired of this guy getting all the attention, all the glory, all the and I'm still working my butt off, and I'm getting like I'm the Robin. Ah, the hell with
Mm,
that. I'm not
Well,
anybody's
he's not
Robin.
coming here to be Batman. I got to tell you, he's not.
Well,
Yeah,
no.
well, he's coming here. He ain't gonna be Batman.
Right. Wherever he goes, and that's why I like if Jaylen Brown leaves, I am a firm believer Jaylen Brown's going to go to a team where he's the Batman, where
yeah.
he's the guy that organization is like, this is all about you. It's all about you, Jalen, and then he will feel like somewhere like an OKC or a Detroit or a Houston, somewhere like that can give him the money
Yeah.
and give him the attention.
Mm.
I would love to see Jaylen Brown in Sixers blue, but I
Yeah,
just
well-
honestly, I'm
I got
in
you.
line with Frank. He's not going to go from being a Robin in Boston to being a
Yeah.
Robin or a Batgirl
It's true.
in Philly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
But then maybe they sell it on him like, listen, man, you win.
Well,
Everybody.
it'll be an interesting offseason.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
It's gonna be an
before we
interesting
get into the
offseason
next
year.
thing,
But
if
Mhm.
you guys want to get your tickets for the upcoming Sixer season, upcoming Eagles season, and maybe even, God forbid, the upcoming Flyers
Fire
season,
season.
go and
Yeah.
check out. We have this special company with a great offer, right, James?
Yes, sir. It's called sherrystickets.com. You can
Sherry.
save percent by using the promo code EOP10. Great prices and no hidden fees for sports, concerts, and theater. Or you could visit our website at www.sherrystickets.com. Family owned and operates since 1946. And like I said, use that promo code EOP10 to save 10% off your next upcoming anyways, visit www.sherrystickets.com and tell them that the boys over at Pattison Ave EOP sent you.
Yeah, and listen, the price is what you see is the price is what you get. And no hidden fees, and
That's
you
what I
get
was
a
thinking that, too.
discount. So listen, there's nothing like going to see a live event, and you might as well go through sherrystickets.com. But
Yeah,
to get back
it is.
to
It is
Go ahead,
concert
Jim.
season. So no, I'm saying it is
Oh, yeah.
concert season.
Yep,
Definitely
the
is.
boss is coming in August.
Yeah,
I
yeah. How
I
about
just
it?
saw the Commodores and Cool and the Gang last night down at Atlanta.
That
Nice.
was cool.
Oh
Nice.
man, it was awesome. I had just seen this is my second time seeing Cool in a couple of months and in a few months,
Yeah.
but yeah, they were incredible. Great show.
Yeah.
So you know who's not cool in the gang?
Who?
James Harden.
Oh,
Because he
That's a good segue.
in my
That's a good
mind
segue.
has sabotaged every possible opportunity for the Sixers to get a quality deal on for him. So you outwardly say you want to be traded. Okay, that's all well and good. You let your boss know I don't want to be here anymore. You don't have to keep poking that bear on social media. You don't have to keep saying it outwardly like, "Hey, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here." And you saw what happened the last time I didn't want to be somewhere. I put on 40 pounds and looked like the illegitimate cousin of Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Listen,
illegitimate.
this is
Good.
where
You're on
I'm
fire
going
today.
with this.
You're on fire in the first hour. I
Yeah,
love it.
man.
Yeah, you're hitting them.
This is where I'm going with this. Is did James Harden sabotage any right-minded, good kind of deal that we could get? Because it even sounded like Maury was a little skeptical on the Cuz show. Frank, I'll start with you. Did James Harden sabotage, the Sixers?
He's a prima donna. That's what they do.
Yep.
I mean, he doesn't. In his mind, he took a pay cut so the Sixers could make some arrangements, and he wanted to get paid, and they weren't going to pay him what he wanted. I mean, they weren't going to give him $200 million for 4 years because he's not worth $200 million anymore. And he was like, well, I did this for you, and you're not helping me out, so now I'm just going to take my gas can and my pack matches and light the place on fire. That's what Harden does, and we knew that when we traded for him. We knew that the guy's temperamental, and he's a princess. So this is what you get. We took our shot with him, and Harden does what Harden did what Harden does, and he doesn't show up when you need him the most. And he did not show up in game 6 and 7, and we lost a chance at a title because of that. So, you know what? I don't think the Sixers are going to be in a position to really threaten this year. So if Harden wants to come and deal with the Philly fans all season long in a fat suit, I don't know what his emotional state's going to be at the end of the season, because the Philly fans will be relentless on him. I mean, there'll be people courtside with like fake hot dogs and cheesesteaks, waving them at him when he's. I mean, like we're nasty people. You just ask Ricky Waters. It took him a whole season to live down for who for what, and he did. Yeah. To his credit, he did live it down. So,
James, what do you think? Do you think James Harden sabotaged any good chances that the Sixers have in getting a good deal for him by being so outward about I want to leave?
The thing about it, like I brought up in my opening segment, it's just that's the Donovan McNabb kind of category, that how pissed off he is, because he's like saying like the same kind of things. I mean, come to think of it, it's kind of like a Carson Wentz situation too, because he actually got Doc Rivers fired, and I'm like, okay, so you got the coach fired, you want to be,
Carson got Doug fired.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that makes it even more astounding is that now he's upset that he don't want to be here, and God forbid that fat suit comes in full wing. I mean, like Frank said, we are like negative people, but the one thing that really bothers me about it is that
we're not negative, James. We're not negative people. We're not negative people.
No, we're not.
We're knowledgeable people, and
we'll tell you how you feel.
The problem with us. Yeah, well, the problem with us is we don't hold back our knowledge. We're going to let you know. That's why I said, that on the side, those first 3 rows of seats are going to have, fake corn dogs and fake cheesesteaks and fake pizza, and they're just going to be waving them at him every time he goes down the court. If he comes and plays with a half-assed manner and shows up 30 pounds overweight, it's going to be brutal on him. And I don't know if he's ready for it, but he better be, because they're not going to trade him. They're not going to trade him if they can't get what they want.
I want Hatfield to sponsor James Harden. I want that.
Dieter Watson.
Yeah, well, either way, I don't care.
Same thing. It's all good.
Same thing. It's good. Keep it all in the neighborhood. That's fine. But I mean, Dame, what do you think? James Harden, has he sabotaged any possible chances for Morey trying to get a decent deal? Not even like a good deal. Now, Morey's got expectations. He wants a good player back, whether it's through trading Harden to get picks, then flipping those picks to get a good player, or trading Harden straight up for a good player. Either way, he wants to get a good player back. Now, has James's comments basically sabotaged any chances that Morey has of getting that to happen?
When you say sabotage, I mean, that's like, we're going to get a couple of second-round picks for him. No, I definitely don't see that. I mean, what is it, July? And so things probably won't pick up until August, mid to late August.
Right. Sure.
When
You're in the dead zone now.
Yeah, people on vacation. He's going to get moved at some point, and it's just a matter of what Morey wants. Morey. I mean, I know people have their complaints about him, but I'm watching him how he's just doing things here. He's cleaning up some stuff, and he's very patient. He's very patient. He was patient with the Ben Simmons situation. The guy's going to kick and pout, saying, "I want to go to the Clippers." Well, if the Clippers aren't offering what he wants to help benefit the, because it boils down to this kind of to what Frank was alluding to. He's kicking and screaming. Harden wants what Harden wants, but Harden doesn't understand that Morey wants what's best for the Sixers, and so it's clear.
Well, Harden doesn't care about that.
No, I'm saying that's my point. He doesn't care about that. He wants what he wants, but Morey's saying, "Hey, I hear you, but I have to do what's best for this team." To the point where he's upset from the start. He didn't get the 4-year deal. He thought he was going to get a 4-year deal from the Sixers or a 3-year with a 1-year option. They're like, no, you'll be 38 years old. We want to win with Embiid. We want to win with Maxey. We give you all this money. Then who are we going to bring in to help? And then, oh, by the way, you would have maybe got had he performed well in Game 6 and they win that again, he may have his money because they'll probably be like, you know what, let's run it back even more and take a chance.
If they'd have progressed, he'd have definitely got his money. Yeah, he would have definitely got it.
It's on him. He was in a position to do that, and he didn't.
Charles brings up a very valid point. Charles Barkley brought up a very valid point this week. He was interviewed, and he basically said, the only reason why Harden really hasn't been dealt yet isn't just the structure or the quality of the deal. It's what Harden wants. Mm-hmm. He wants a 4-year deal from wherever he goes. He wants that final contract that he can take to the strip joint and blow in 3 hours. But the idea that, there's no real team out there that wants to pay him for 4 years, that wants to be, have that guy on their, on their roster for 4 years, especially, and for people who think, okay, he could go back to Houston. That's kind of a non-starter now. He could go to LA and go to the Clippers. Okay, but then there's some youthful guys there too. Any team, whether it's the Clippers or Detroit or any of these teams that are trying to rebuild and revamp with youth, you really going to want that impressionable minds of those young men to be around a guy that is so easily willing to quit on more than one team? Because listen, he can teach. Like, he's taught Maxey how to be a better player. There's no doubt in that. But I also feel like where the good comes in, the bad can come in too. You get both sides of that coin. And I don't know if many teams want to deal with that problem for 4 years at a max contract and let other players that are quality, like a Jaylen Brown, pass them by.
The years where he's worth that problem are long gone. You know, the years that Harden is worth that kind of aggravation, that ship sailed. Harden is not that guy anymore. And
someone ought to tell him that.
Well, he's going to make 40 million. He's going to make 40 million this year.
I mean, actually, the league told him this offseason. The league has told him that this offseason because nobody's showing any interest. And he's still gonna do what he's gonna do, and he might show up in a fat suit, fine. But God help you, bud, because Philadelphia ain't gonna let you. They're not gonna forgive you to do that. You come and give them a half-hearted effort in a fat suit, you're gonna have a problem.
So we've kind of said that, for the most part, that the Sixers could be taking a little bit of a step back this year. Now, despite that, and despite the big free agent class that's coming next offseason, is Morey on the hot seat? Dame, I'll start with you. Is Morey on the hot seat for this year?
Nah, not at all. This is actually this is going to sound crazy. This is the year it begins. And what I mean by that is he hired a coach that had multiple choices of jobs that people liked. Wants to see, how close this team really is. And people think they're going to take a step back. That's fine. We'll find out come spring next year where they'll be. But the way he's maneuvering and not giving in to Harden, who people know that he has a good relationship with, shows a lot to say, no, I'm standing pat. I'm not moving Maxey. And this is what I want to build it my way. Now, I don't know what was said to him because this is his third year coming in. This off season will be his third year as the president of basketball operations. So he had to clean up some stuff, man. I know people don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. Ben Simmons, he had to clean up.
Al Horford,
but also saying, you know what, I got this money to work with, and then I can go and really get the team I want. So we'll see. But I don't think he's on the hot seat.
Joe, I'll tell you why he's not on the hot seat. There's a really good reason why he's not on the hot seat. He probably won't be on the hot seat for probably at least 2 more years.
Yeah.
And that's because of the Washington Commanders. Josh Harris's attention is going to be paid to what's going on in Washington because he just spent $6.2 billion to buy that team. So
because he bought the Devils, he was focused too. I mean, that means he.
Yeah, but there's a lot to fix down there. There's a lot to fix down there, Dame.
And he's also from Washington, so he's got a little bit of a heartstrings.
I got to believe that he's going to say, look, Daryl, I got you a new coach. Let's see how this plays out. He's going to give him at least 2 more years to work this out. So he's going to leave him alone and let him be while he concentrates on his new toy. So.
Well, James, for those people, before we move on, for those people that may come to a Sixers game and buy tickets from sherrytickets.com and go to a Sixers game this season and maybe have some things to say or do or act towards James Harden, they may need legal representation after the fact. Where may they go for that legal representation?
Very good segue, Joe. It's David Lloyd Cherry, Esquire,
Yeah.
Workers' Comp, Motor Vehicle Accidents, Personal Injury, Criminal Law, all that in between. If you probably want to have the opportunity to fight James Harden if he has that fat suit, give him a call at 610-565-0300. That is www.cherryinjurylaw.com. Again, the number is 610-565-0300. And tell them that the boys over at Pattison Ave and the EOP sent you.
And I'm gonna just do a disclaimer.
Yeah,
for
some
Mr.
of the fans
Cherry.
may need Mr. Cherry's help next season.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And for
Jackie Childs.
and a disclaimer from Mr. Cherry. I'm sorry that if this Sixers season, due to that commercial read, if you get inundated with phone calls, I'm sorry, sir. But I'll keep you busy. I'll keep you busy. I'll keep you busy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
we're gonna move on to your Philadelphia Phillies, who unfortunately lost to the Cleveland Guardians last night.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack about that game last night, guys.
Yeah.
First and foremost, runners in scoring position. More importantly, 3 times they had the bases loaded and left them loaded. This is not there's a coincidence and then there's a trend. This is becoming a trend, and it's not a coincidence anymore. Frank, how do you fix it?
Good question.
Well, actually, it is a trend, Joe, and the trend that they're running into is teams with incredibly good pitching staffs. And I've heard this said a million times, and I've said it myself. Baseball is all good pitching stops all good hitting, and the 2 staffs that they're facing, in Milwaukee and in Cleveland, have very, very, very solid staffs, and they're playing teams that are very evenly matched with them. That being said, the Phillies need to find another right-handed power bat to stabilize this lineup because they clearly have not gotten over Reese not being in the lineup. That right-handed threat is not there, and it makes them susceptible because the real power in their team is left-handed, and it can be neutralized. So they have to before the deadline, they have to come up with the right-handed bat somewhere, and hopefully it's a right-handed bat that can play outfield because they're a much better team defensively and offensively if they come up with that, because that takes Schwarber out of left field. And anybody with eyes who saw anybody but Schwarber playing the outfield the last week sees that having a defensive replacement in the outfield is definitely beneficial for that team. So, I mean, I love Schwarber, but Schwarber just, he's not meant to be playing in the field anymore. He's a designated hitter.
To speak on that, Frank. Yeah,
and I mean, I think Harper put to rest. I think Harper put to rest yesterday with his defensive play that he has the ability to play anywhere he wants to, because he made some plays yesterday that were really, really good. And they struggled at the plate, and they left bases loaded. But I think it's as much a product of the fact that the Guardians have a good pitching staff, and the Phillies are missing a piece in their lineup that gives them that extra ability.
And it's interesting because I've been on this show, and I believe it wasn't that long ago that I basically said, and Frank's like, you get what you get, but I've been really critical about Kyle Schwarber's outfield performance, and this past week he made a phenomenal outfield play, and I go, okay, now you're just trying to shut me up. I understand. But the interesting thing that was said,
Joe. Blind squirrel.
yeah, well, I know. Well, Stubbs made that same point. He's like, because someone said, did you see how much air Schwarber got over? And Stubbs was like, you mean the 3 sheets of paper that you could put underneath his feet when he made that jump? Like,
right.
that's
the credit
not
card.
air. That
you could put the credit card under his feet. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I get it. One of the things that's I guess not concerning me, but I think needs to, we need to evaluate. I think Trey Turner needs to sit down for a game or two. I think he needs to get his head right.
Absolutely.
I think when you have a guy who's struggling with his confidence at the plate and not relaxing and pressing too hard, you're seeing not the best things come out of him. And I think he needs a day or two. And I get it that the lineup would be much weaker without him than with him due to all the injuries and everything like that. I get that. But I think you got to look at the long term. Like, if this guy continues to struggle at the plate, he's batting .246. This guy's got an on-base percentage of, not where it needs to be, not even close to where it should be, not even in the mileage of what we expected it to be. Damon, I'll ask you, would you sit Turner for a couple days just to get his head right?
Yeah, I definitely would sit him. And I'm also concerned about that 10-year contract. In terms of the longevity of it. I mean, everybody was Turner. We got to get Turner. We got to get Turner. We got to get Turner. And he's just not holding up his end. I'm gonna go back to what you said.
To interrupt real quick, Dame. We said that about Castellanos last year too.
I know. And he's come out. Yeah, that's true. But go back to what you said. I would sit him just so he can get his head right. And you're not going to send him down. That's not even in the question. But
impossible.
You do want to sit him a day or so, so they can kind of reprocess, or if you will. The other thing when you started about whether it's you said it's a trend or the other word I forget to use, constant, in terms of them not hitting with runners in scoring position. Man, it goes back to last year, maybe the year before as well. And Frank makes a good point. When you don't have that right-handed back, with the ability that Reese Hoskins has, because Reese can help, stabilize that, bring some people home, and then it would kind of domino effect would happen. But man, do they struggle with? I don't know. This is what I'm seeing. I don't know if you guys are seeing this. I saw it in the Brewers series. It's like when a guy's on second base, everyone all of a sudden wants to become Mike Schmidt or Ryan Howard. I feel like everyone wants to just hit for the fences. I just get that feeling
But
with this
they are.
team. Am I saying that right, Frank? Because I'm just looking at it going.
It looks like it's me.
That's what they are. That's what they are, Dame. They're not punch and Judy hitters. These guys are power hitters.
Oh no, I know they are.
Yeah, there's a lack of power this year. Well, I mean that's the nature. That's the nature of the beast.
But they have the ability
that's what they're.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying.
I just think that
that's the way they're built. But I think they had the ability to shorten the bat a little bit, right? And it's like,
well, they all have the ability to shorten the back, but that's not their nature. Their nature is the nature. Good morning, Mike. Their nature is to drive them home and they don't have an off switch at the plate is what I'm trying to say.
I got
you. They're not the kind of guys that like Stott is the guy and Bowman are the guys that are gonna that would choke up and move the runner along. You're not going to get that from Castellanos or Schwarber or Harper or even JT's a little more cerebral at the plate, but he's struggling right now.
But that's what you're supposed to get from Turner.
The top of the lineup guys. The top of the lineup guys are thumpers, huh?
Yeah, you're supposed to get
Turner's
that from
supposed
Turner.
to be there, but I think I know that. But Turner has always been an aggressive hitter. He's what you're seeing out of Turner is what he is.
He's killing me with this.
You know what?
He's killing me with this swinging at the first pitch again. Jesus.
But that's what he does, Dame. I mean, that's what makes Turner Turner. He's a very aggressive guy at the plate, and he's usually more selective. But I mean, if you look at his walks in his career, he's not a guy that walks.
No.
I mean, he's not. No. So I mean, he's always been aggressive, and he's always been on a team that had batters around him that could protect him. And theoretically, he's on a team with batters around him that can protect him. But they're missing that one piece, and that one piece. I mean, I didn't think it was possible that Reese Hoskins' absence could have that effect on this team, but it definitely has had an effect on this team, and they still haven't figured it out. And I think it's going to take. They're either going to trade for somebody or they're going to re-sign Reese, and he's going to be back in the lineup next year. And I, for one, am now convinced that they need it. Where last year I was in the team that was like trade Reese because he's not. But guess what? Reese Hoskins, on the field and off the field, has had a bigger effect on this team than I ever imagined. And it's glaring. His absence is glaring. So I'm not worried about Turner because I mean Turner has never had a season like this. So it's not like you can say, you know what, he's had 2 good years and 5 medium years. No, Turner's always played well. This is the anomaly. This isn't normal for him. So whatever he's going through as a new player, he's going to get through it. Sooner or later, he's going to find his lane. And he's going to be fine. Now, that might take till next year. Okay, that's fine. If it takes till next year, that's fine. I'm good with that because guess what? He's not going anywhere for 10 years. Harper's not going anywhere for 10 years. They're going to have Schwarber, Castellanos for the next few years, and Bowman Stott aren't going anywhere. So the team, and neither is JT. So yeah, they can take this year, and it really hurts that Painter's not going to be in the lineup for. I'm probably not going to see him now until 2025. That really hurts.
We're gonna touch on that.
The surprise of the year for me. the surprise of the year for me is Walker. You know, when Walker took the mound the other night, you know what he had the chance to do? He had the chance to be the first 12-game winner in baseball. Baseball, not just National League. If he had won the other night, he'd have been the first 12-game winner in baseball. Think about that statement.
You know, here's the thing. I'm going to touch on two things Frank said, and I want to get everybody's feedback. But I really, because Frank makes some interesting points to some interesting news that I think one is being highly talked about and one isn't. And the one that's being highly talked about is
Hey Joe. Joe.
Yep.
Joe, can I hold you up? Joe, can I hold you up for a second? I hold you up for a second? Dave Yarnell has a thing up there. Hey Dave, you know that I liked Cody Bellinger 2 years ago. The problem with Cody Bellinger is he's a left-handed bat. You know, that's Cody's. That's the problem with Cody. I would love to have Cody Bellinger in this lineup. You know that I always love Cody Bellinger, just like you always like that guard from Washington.
Yeah, who's no longer in Washington. So, with Cody Bellinger, I like Cody too, but I agree with you, Frank. It doesn't solve the problem of the right-handed at bat. I mean, it definitely helps in the outfield, but it doesn't. So it solves one problem, but still leaves you in a deficit for the other. But to go into like the Andrew Painter, Andrew Painter now needs Tommy John surgery, and the prognosis for Tommy John, and as you know, people have talked about, do not use what Bryce Harper did as the barometer for how long or how quick a person can heal from Tommy John. Bryce Harper's Superman. Like there's no other wrong or way to put it. He's Superman. It's going to take 12 to 18 months for full healed after Tommy John. So, you know, Frank's right. We may not see Painter until 2025, but he's a young kid. You want to get him right because he could be the next ace of your rotation going forward. And especially if you can make something out of
he's going to take the place of the guy that are now.
Yeah, so, you know, there's always that concept. Now, to go to something that hasn't been widely talked about, and it's Taijuan Walker. He's been, you know, in the beginning of the season, people did not think that he's what we paid for. He struggled. And then he turned it around, and all of a sudden he's like, you know, he's a man on a mission. And I ask, does this guy deserve to be in National Cy Young conversations? Frank, I'll start with you, considering you brought it up.
Well, you know, if he keeps winning, how can you ignore it? You know, if he winds up the winningest starting pitcher in the National League, he's definitely in the conversation, and the Phillies have gotten themselves a bargain. You know, a friend of mine, a guy that works in my company, is a huge New York Mets fan. When they signed, he is from New York. He's from Brooklyn. When they signed Walker, he looked at me and he went, "You guys just stole the next Wheeler from us." You know, he said he's just like Wheeler. He said he just hasn't reached his full potential yet. And he said, I was really not happy when the Mets let him go. And I mean, he does get in trouble when he gets up in the zone. He gets hit. But he's done something, you know, he's learning how to pitch, and we're getting him right when he's learning how to pitch. And I think you know, we should take this Taijuan Walker thing and just run with it and enjoy it. Yes, he should be in the conversation for Cy Young if he keeps winning. You know,
James,
that's the Phillies pitching. The Phillies pitching is not their problem. It's not their problem right now. Their problem is the bats.
James, I'll throw this to you. Taijuan Walker, you know, what we expected and what we're getting. Your dad and you and me and you have always had this conversation. There's a difference between nowadays between throwers and pitchers. And it seems like Taijuan is a pitcher. Like he doesn't have the overpowering juice to kind of not blow you away, but he has the way to locate the ball to full batters more uh, than overpowering them.
Right.
So I'll ask you: do you think Taiwan,
Right.
with everything he brings to the table, do you think he's got a chance of being potentially a National League Cy Young this year?
Well, it's a good question to have. I mean, I think the thing with Walker is probably that I think he's probably one of your top three aces at this point. I mean, Weir is up and down. Noah's like going to be Noah, and maybe if I have the choice, yeah, I would put him in consideration for the Cy Young because of like he's been a real help for our pitching a lot lately. I mean,
It's been solid.
aside,
He's
yeah,
been
it's
solid.
solid.
He's been very
Exactly,
solid.
exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. And
So
I think that
what?
obviously it's gonna be. I think
So
it should be nominated.
so going forward, I want to get I want to go around the table here, and I want to get the star, the MVP, the rising star, the person that has meant the most to the Phillies the first half of this season. You got to name one player. You got to pick one player that's been the rising star, the MVP of the first half. Frank, I'll start with you. Who's your rising star of the Philadelphia Phillies, the most important player on the field right now, first half of season?
I got to go with the best two-strike hitter in baseball, and that's Bryson Stott.
Damon, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, he's been the most consistent, steady hitter. Is Stop for me. He stands out. He stands out above everybody right now.
He's got the most two-strike hits in baseball. In baseball, not American, not national, not in baseball. He's got the most two-strike hits.
Yeah, he does something Ricky Bo pointed out where, and I'm actually trying to watch it more with other batters. He allows the ball to get deep into the batter's box before he makes his swing. It's something really interesting with you know what I'm talking about, Frank? He's
got
ability.
what he does. He does what Chase used to do, and if it's a pitch that he doesn't like that's close to the zone, he just flicks his bat, fouls it off. He just flicks his bat and fouls it off, and waits on his pitch. That's why he's such a good two-strike hitter. He doesn't overswing with two strikes. He does what we were taught to do when we were kids. He jumps up a little bit, and he spreads his stance out, and he waits for the right pitch, and he's very patient that way. And man, I don't see his ceiling yet. I don't see Bryson Stott's ceiling.
You know, it's
which is
interesting
really a really good thing.
Because last Sunday with Sundays with Schmidt, Chase Utley was in the booth with the guys, and Mike Schmidt brought up to Chase, and it seemed like Chase he wasn't disagreeing with him, but he was like, "Yeah, I could see where you're coming from." Mike Schmidt compared Bryson Stott to a Chase Utley, and said that outwardly to Chase, and Chase said, "Yeah, I could see that. I could see a lot of similarities
It's reasonable
between me and him." Yeah, and look. If we have the ability to have another young Chase Utley on this infield, I'll take it all day, every day.
I'm all for that.
But James,
I'm all for
who's
that.
your rising star for the first half?
Well, somebody put it up on the comments, and I agree with him on this one. He said Alec Bowman. I gotta go with Alec Bowman too, because he's been ever since last year, that whole melee that he had when he says I effing hate it here. I think the one thing that really I enjoyed the most out of him is that he's starting to become a real good third baseman. But the problem is that I still have a problem with is that I wouldn't say it's a Scott Kingery effect, but it kind of is because you put him at first base, you put him back at third. You want to the one thing you have to do. I know we're saying there, and that's the big reason why you have to get the players like Alec Boehm to play first base once in a while, or even like a Cody Clemens, or even like Bryce Harper last night. But if you put him back at third base and put Harper at first base just for now, that kind of takes away like him playing at first base almost majority of the 50 games that happened this year.
Yeah.
Well, you want to know something about his play at both positions, James?
Yeah.
You want to know something about Alec Boehm's play? He has one error at first base. he has one error at third base.
Wow,
I think he can play both positions.
that's a huge
I
improvement.
think.
I'm not saying they do. I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm just saying just not to confuse his head. Like,
Well,
like
Yeah, with James is saying he wants stability.
my thought on that is moving him from side to side has no effect on him, especially at the plate.
right.
I think he needs to build a little more power
legs.
because his swing is he's got a really good swing, but it's very level, and it doesn't generate enough out of the park power. You know, he's more Castellanos like in his launch angles, and I don't want him to start swinging for the fences. God no, because he's so valuable as an all fields hitter. Because I've seen him get hits to 3 different fields in one game. You know, he got to hit the right, got to hit the left, got to hit the center. I mean, that's the beauty of Alec Bohm. He does need a little bit more power, which that can come with time. He's not. I mean, how old is he? He's 24, right?
Yeah,
Alec Bohm's 24.
Like that. So
so he hasn't even hit his peak yet. He hasn't hit his peak yet. He's still 3 years away from hitting his peak.
My feeling and my rising stars is as much the same as yours, James. And there's for a couple of different reasons. Alec Bohm is the team leader in RBIs this season. This is a guy who's been doing it at the plate when it's been needed. There's been a power outage from different big time names on this lineup that we've missed, and Alec Bohm is kind of made up. If Alec Bohm's not hitting what he's hitting, the Phillies are maybe 12 games less in the win column, in my mind. And that may be
I believe that
understatement. Yeah. So, but the thing that I would say, and Frank was alluding to the power at the plate, I wouldn't necessarily want more power from him at the plate. I would want more arm strength. From being a third baseman, I would want a guy that is going to gun someone out no matter where the ball is hit. The other day, he made a play, and it proves to me he's right at that cresting point where if he got a little bit more arm strength, it doesn't matter where that ball is hit in his area. It doesn't matter. He's going to make the right throw, and he's going to gun even the fastest runners out. And when you can do that as a third baseman, it makes you lethal from that, at least eliminating those left-handed batters that are trying to punch it up the third base line. Because now all of a sudden you have a guy that is as tall as Alec Bohm is, athletic as Alec Bohm is, and now he's got a rocket for an arm that can throw it over to first, and no matter how fast you are, can throw you out. That is, I mean, that's a complete player. And I mean, I wouldn't want him to gain that and lose stuff from the plate. But if he gained that and sustained what he has at the plate, whew, we talk about Chase Utley with Bryson Stott. I'll throw big praise out here. Could we be looking at the next Michael Schmidt, at least from a fielding standpoint?
No,
maybe not from a power standpoint, but from a fielding standpoint.
Ricky Bo says Scott Rowland was the best third baseman he ever played with.
Ricky Bo needs to get his.
That's what Ricky Bo said. Scott Rowland was the best third baseman he ever played with.
No. Hopefully Scott Rowland. Yeah. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully it won't be bad as Scott Rowland, Dave.
Hold up.
Scott Rowland's a good player.
He's the best third baseman that Scott Rowland.
Just
Scott Rowland's the best third baseman Ricky Bo ever played with. Ricky Bo never played with Michael Jack Schmidt. Like, believe me, Scott Rowland is an amateur.
Ricky Bo knows.
Amateur. I know he's going into the Hall of Fame.
What is he doing?
Scott Rowland was not an amateur. Scott, if you just look between the lines and not what Scott Rowland, did to himself and to this team, if you just look at him as a player, Scott Rowland was an excellent third baseman. I mean, excellent. And I mean, I watched all of Mike Schmidt's career, and I saw a good portion of Brooks Robinson's career, and nobody was better at the position than Brooks Robinson defensively. But Mike Schmidt is the next Brooks Robinson. I mean, he was just as good, not quite as good, but damn close. and nobody
So
comes close to either one of
can
those
Alec
two.
Baum? All right.
There's been some good third basemen in the league.
Okay, I'll even put it this way. I'll lower it. I'll lower the bar. Can Alec Baum be the next Scott Rowland? Not attitude wise, but
I think he
feelings-wise.
can. I think he can.
There's
I
a
think he can.
possibility.
Yes,
There's a possibility.
I think Alec Baum could be Alec Baum could be a 10-year third baseman for the Phillies. He literally can be a 10-year third baseman for the Phillies. He needs more strength. I think his arm is fine, Joe. I don't think there's a problem with his arm. That's not going to come with the development of age when he finally fills out, because I don't think we see Alec Baum or Bryson Stott completely filled out yet. And that usually happens when the players get to like 27, 28 years old, and they're right at the peak of their game. And it goes from 27 to like 32 years old, and they're not there yet. I think the next 4 years with those two players, you're going to see superstars on the field.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be there, and they're going to make those two guys. Here's how important I think those two guys are to this team. Those two guys are going to make the aging superstars on this team age so much easier, because they're going to supplement the lack of power and speed and grace that those guys have right now that are in their peak, that are 30 years old. They're going to make that transition easier when Harper gets a little older, when JT gets a little older, when those guys, when Turner gets a little older. Those guys are going to make that transition a little better.
Yeah.
And bringing up a guy like Crawford is going to have that effect. The Phillies, Dombrowski's done a really good job. He's not done yet, because, the last moron that was in there really, really train wrecked the organization.
I'm glad you brought him up.
It's a long, slow climb.
I'm glad
it's
you
a long,
brought him
slow
up.
climb to get it's
Did
a long,
you
slow climb to get an
notice?
organization back.
Did you notice that this past homestand, I think it was the second to last game, the last night game at home against the Brewers, Mr. Clintack was in the building. I was kind of perplexed.
Did they make him pay for
by
a
that.
ticket?
Oh, I'm sure he
Did they make him pay for a ticket?
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he had to pay for a ticket, but the fact that he was in the building, I'm like,
Right.
that's interesting. And I even asked my lady A, I'm like, is he the general manager for the Brewers? No. I'm like, so he has no dog in the fight, but he's just there.
What was he doing there?
I don't know. But
he wasn't immediately fired. He was given another position.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but he's not.
He was appointed
in
I
saw him pushing the janitorial cart when I was there for the game earlier in the year. He was pushing the cart with, had the foot cleaners and stuff like that.
Well,
he was doing
we
that.
all know that.
I guess he was valuable, but
we know that he's your favorite person, Frank. We know that.
Get your fudgy wudgies. He's down at the shore. Get your fudgy wudgies.
Well, he's now whenever the tram cars recording cuts out, he's the one that announces it as they go down. Watch the tram car, please. Yeah,
tram car is coming.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys this: do you guys have that feeling this season as you did last season about this Philadelphia Phillies team? Frank, do you feel like you made the bold statement last year, the statement of the year that echoed for months? Do you have that? Does Frank Finnegan have that feeling?
No. I hate to give you a one-word answer, but no. And I mean, if they get a right-handed bat, then yes, this is to be quite honest, if they get a bat to put in that lineup and they don't subtract a whole lot from the team doing it, they are the most dangerous team in baseball. There's no two ways about it.
You had that feeling?
I think the Braves are a really good team. but they have flaws in their pitching staff, and we all know what happens in the playoffs with pitching staffs that have flaws. They lose. So I think the Braves are really, really, really benefiting from a great batting lineup because they're having problems with their pitching, and I think those problems are going to persist when they get to the playoffs. And I think the Phillies have a better pitching staff. I think they're going to wind up coming out in the National League, but they definitely need a right-handed bat.
Dame, what do you think? Do you have that feeling?
No, it's interesting with this team, man. I feel like they'll make the playoffs. I think they'll get the wild card, but I also feel like they believe they either won something or they believe they can turn it on when they want to turn it on. I get that feeling from them, and that bothers me. So that's why I'm not. The ride is a little different.
I don't think it's that, Dame. I don't think it's that, Dame. And I mean, I hate to say this again, but it sounds like a broken record. It's the absence of Rhys Hoskins. I mean that piece is missing. And
is that, but also no one. And I'm surprised Joe didn't bring this up. In the Brewers game when Harper's standing there with the bat on his shoulder, like that as much as we get on big fella, rightfully so. What was that about, Harper? So
I don't think it was a big deal.
You know what? Look, here's the way I got to approach that, Damon. In what he's here. This is his fourth season now. This is Harper's fourth year here. Have you ever seen him taking a bat off?
No.
Okay. So Ricky Bo came up with a theory on the show this week, and I think it's valid. I think my man had to go drop a deuce, and he's like, I can't, I got to get this bat over.
It could be.
And I mean, if he bent over to take his stride on the plate, things were going to happen.
Yeah. It could be criminal.
I think it's completely valid. I think, and this is why.
And now we know why I didn't bring this up.
Yeah, no, it could be criminal.
Yeah, but I mean, it makes sense. The guy has never taken a playoff. He doesn't know how to turn a switch.
Well, then you know what?
That's a different kind of fudgy wudgy bar.
See, we're going rail.
Let's get the train back on the rails.
We're going rail. No, there have been times I've seen Joe go to the tunnel and people go, "Where's Joe?" I'm like, "He's got to go to the bathroom." I know he's going to the bathroom, and he comes back. So it could have been that. Listen, but to Joey's point, Joe, I don't know, and until they get some,
I'll tell you what I think.
I'll know playoffs, but I believe they'll make the playoffs.
I think he was dreading ball 4. I think he was dreading ball 4.
He didn't want to fudgy
wudgy. What's going to happen?
He didn't want to fudgy.
He did not want to fudgy.
Was he dreading ball 4 or was he dreading the turtle head poking out? I don't know.
No, he was dreading ball 4 because that would have meant he would have to go to first base and stay out there until the inning was over.
Okay.
This is a mystery. This is a mystery that will never be solved, and it's a mystery that is just let it go. Just let it go.
Yeah. James, so I'll ask you: do you got that same feeling about this team going forward this season as you did last season?
No, I don't think so, Joe. I think the run last year was so special. Was like nobody could be like in that same boat. Like probably, I mean, I know there's like sports teams that did that. Like obviously the Flyers did that in 2010, and that was the story of my life actually because of that whole year was such a great, fantastic year. But I think with the Phillies, the one thing like Frank like alluded to is basically Rhys Hoskins not being there. That's probably one of the reasons why the team has folded the way it did.
Yeah.
Well, not folded, but like going down that road again.
Well, here's my logic with this. So I agree with Frank with Rhys. I mean, we've covered this ad nauseum in the idea that Rhys is definitely missed, and I think all Philadelphia Phillies fans now have gone, We were wrong when we said we want you gone last year. We understand that now. We understand how valuable you are to this
Yes, we
team.
were, Steve.
And that being said, look, the prognosis, the timeline for Reese coming back could be mid-September, late September, early,
Mhm.
right before the playoff run. What
Mhm.
could that do? Well, my opinion is much like in many sports. If you
Mhm.
get into the playoffs, and I've said this to Dave the one time, I'm like, look, when you get into the playoffs, it's a whole new ball game. It's 0-0.
It is. It is.
Right.
Everybody's standings are the same. You just need to play the best baseball in that tournament. That's all you have to do. I mean, everything else is irrelevant. I get like that people are like, well, you got an extra seed in the wild card, and did you really earn it? Like, well, here's the thing: the Phillies didn't make the rules. The MLB did. Now it's just up to them that they're saying, well, we have to get to this seed in order
Mhm.
to do something about it. So if the Sixers next year take a step back and they don't even they wind up being 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seed and we have to play in the play-in tournament or whatnot, are we going to sit there and go, well, the Sixers took advantage of the rules? Like, of course they did, because that's what the rules of the league changed to. Did it favor our team? Yeah, because if the wild card seeds were like they were in the past, the Phillies wouldn't have made the playoffs last season. If and the way that the wild card seeds are now, the Phillies absolutely still couldn't make the wild card. And it doesn't matter if you make that last seed like they did last year. They almost got, burned. I think it was the ninth inning with the Cardinals game. And if they would have lost that game, they would have, been down. They would have been like gone. Things would have
Yep.
been really bad for them.
Yep.
But they didn't. They fought back, and that means because every game is that valuable in the playoffs. And listen, I agree with Damon. I don't like their approach that they're taking. I like the teams that jump all over these weaker teams or jump all over any team really early and don't give me a heart attack into the ninth inning with a 1-run deficit thinking, is something miraculous going to have to happen in order for us to pull off a win? You have a better team than better lineup than most teams in the MLB. You need to prove it. And that's where I'm at. So do I have that same feeling? I kind of do, only until like the jury's still out because I still feel like they can make the playoffs, so that feeling's still the same. And I still feel like if they get into the playoffs, anything can really happen. So, for me, I am, just a strong believer in that. We're gonna transition.
Joe,
Uh,
Joe,
for,
nobody wants to play that team in the playoffs. Nobody wants to play the
no,
Phillies in the playoffs.
no, no, no,
And the
and
Phillies are going to
that's
wind up.
why.
The Phillies are going to wind up with the number one wild card. They're going
Right,
to wind up with the top wild card by the end of the year,
but they're
simply
still not gonna
because
want
they
to
have
be
that good a team
faced.
and they're pitching. They're still not what?
They're not. They're still not gonna want to be faced. Like teams are not gonna want to face them, regardless if they're
No,
the number one wild card or
they're not
number
going to want to
three.
play that team,
Yeah.
especially if they pick
So
up a right-handed bat. If they pick up a right-handed bat, nobody's going to want to play them.
So one of the things that before we
So
transition, we're going to talk about the Eagles. But James, um, PhillySportsTrips.com, you got the upcoming Eagles season, man. There's some exciting trips coming up, and you got to think it's great to go to PhillySportsTrips.com and get a package there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's going to be a lot of road trips to go to this year for PhillySportsTrips.com. Obviously, you got the Eagles coming up. I mean, you got the first game in New England, and the Jets, and then in between some rivalry games and X, Y, and Z. And there's a London trip for next year for the Phillies. They're going to be playing in London. Obviously, I got to update this graphic, but overall, like just the Philly sports trip scene is locked and loaded for another year of excitement and anticipation. Visit our website if you want to point a trip. That is www.phillysportstrips.com and tell them that the boys over at Pattison Ave and EOP sent you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Vince
Vinny
takes care
does
of
it
you.
well. Vince does it well.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's going to the Kansas City game. He's a Kansas City fan. I hate him. He's a terrible guy.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the Chiefs
he
too.
rubbed it in my but he's going to the game this year. He told me yesterday he spent $650 for a ticket for that game for lower bowl seat.
Oh my god!
Yeah, $650 he spent to go to a Kansas City game. I said, okay, and he's driving there.
Oh man,
that was just the ticket to the game.
There's a place down Big Charlie's down in South Philly. He could be friends with a lot of people down there.
He's been there. He's been there several times.
Oh, I get that. I could imagine.
I mean,
yeah.
What's that, Joe?
So we're going to transition into the Eagles, and we're coming into the training camp. Not that far away. I'm getting more and more excited. Some of the big concerns that was brought up that I thought about and kind of contemplated this week are valid, and I want to get your takes on it. So, do you guys have any concerns with Brian Johnson being an offensive coordinator and being the main play caller for offense? Now, the last time he called any kind of offensive plays was in Florida. And he was the head coach for Jalen Hurts' high school team, which is where him and Jalen originally met. So my question to you guys, and I'll start with you, Frank, are you worried about some of the, newbie hiccups for an offensive play caller in Brian Johnson coming into with this high-powered of an offense?
No. And I'll tell you why. Because yes, Brian Johnson's running this team, but last year we had an offensive coordinator that we didn't know anything about, and look what he did. I think this goes right back to Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni says, "Here's the playbook. Here's how you work it. This is my offense. This is what I want to do." The fact that they brought Brian Johnson in is just familiarity with Jalen Hurts and making him as comfortable as possible in the quarterback position. The last thing they wanted to do was scramble eggs with Jalen Hurts' head, bringing in an offensive coordinator that hadn't worked with him before. You got a good thing here. You don't rock that boat, and they did the right thing. The bigger concern for the Eagles team, to me, is not the offense coordinator; it's the defense. Now, I think the Eagles defense is going to struggle at the beginning of the season. That being said, it's not going to matter because of the stability with Johnson as an offensive coordinator. It's going to overcome any defensive deficiencies we might have at the beginning of the season, and the Eagles will be hitting their defensive stride right when they need to around week 11. They're still going to be 8-0, 9-1, kind of record going into the bye week and coming out in week 11 and playing that 5-game gauntlet that they got to play. I think the Eagles are extremely well set up for another Super Bowl run. I think both mentally and physically. The only thing that's going to stop them, injuries. And it looks like Sirianni has a plan on how to run a team in the offseason so they avoid those injuries late in the season. Everybody has criticized this guy about how he runs his camp, and it's Camp Kumbaya, and there's no hitting, there's no tackling to the ground. Well, I don't know if anybody's paying attention, but the last 2 seasons, they have not had any major injuries going into the playoffs. I mean, they were the healthiest team going in the last 2 years. And if they do that
the only
this
major
year,
injury was Maddox. I think that's the only one.
Right. The only thing I'm looking forward to, and I really want to do this, is I want to convert my religion. I want to become a Buddhist because I want Buddha Baker. You know, I want to be a Buddhist now. You know, make me a Buddhist.
I could see
and
that
give me Buddha
trending
Baker.
now. Yeah. So we'll get to
I'm going to
Buddha
change
in
my
a minute.
religion. I'm going to convert.
Yeah. So Dame, do you have any reservations or concerns about Johnson taking over the play calling ability as an OC?
No, not at all. One, because he's familiar with Jalen from high school, but they both have grown, both as coordinators and quarterbacks since then. But he was his quarterbacks coach last year with the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that, and usually, when that happens, with the quarterback coaches, we know Andy Reid was a great quarterback coach who led some great players, and obviously now is a great great head coach. The other thing that's going to work in their favor is that this will be the year number 3 with Jalen in this offense. So that's nothing but a plus. I'm just curious, and I guess we'll find out if he's going to call the plays like Steichen did last year, which I thought.
Well, that's been reported that that Nick's not taking back the
Okay.
play calling.
Yeah, and I think that's good. Well, here's a couple of things about that. So in Nick's first season, he did call the plays up until a certain point. He relinquished those duties like towards the end of the year.
Week 10,
Week
he
10
relinquishes. Yep.
And then all last year, as we know, he gave it up, which I thought was big of him because a lot of these young head coaches that are coming in, they want to plant their stamp or plant their mark, if you will, on the team and say, I want to be head coach, I want to be offensive coordinator, I want to be general manager. Like they want to be everything. And I think that he's taking a step back for the betterment of the team. So no, I think they'll be fine. I'm looking forward to the wrinkles that's coming into the offense with the Swifts added. I'm curious to see who that third receiver is going to be. If it's not Quez Watkins, who it'll be, and we'll see. So yeah, I'm fine.
So James, I'll ask you the same question. You have any concerns or reservations about Johnson being the play caller for this high-powered offense this coming season?
No, I don't think so. I think the one thing that I looked at it too is that Frank basically nailed it. Like basically what I was saying this whole time. I mean, the offense is going to be so effective in so many ways that the defense won't even be as a factor as it was last year. They can just they'll score as many points. I can tell they're going to score maybe 30 plus games a game. Like that's how big this team is. Really united in so many ways. The other thing I like about it too is that when they're ready for the down the stretch and they're ready to go into the playoffs, they'll be all ready to go. They'll be all healthy and ready and all that. And Jalen Hurts and Brian Johnson, I mean, this is the guy's like his uncle. He's really connected to him. And I think whatever Jalen says, whatever helps him get better, I think he's going to have a fantastic season. If he's not the MVP this year, there's something wrong with this league. I'm just saying.
So, this may come as a shock to everyone.
Did anybody happen to catch? Did anybody happen to catch the Brian Olsen podcast last week?
No.
They talked about the Super Bowl. They talked about the Super Bowl when Brian Olsen said everybody in the booth was so disappointed with that call, that holding call at the end of the Super Bowl. He said, it's a terrible. He said, look, the player admitted after that it was a holding call. He said, this wasn't an egregious call. He said, what was worse was we had this fantastic football game, and he said it was one of the best Super Bowls ever played. That was reduced to 3 kneel downs and a kick at the end, when there was a chance for everybody to see Jalen Hurts try to go down and score again. He said that referee killed that Super Bowl. He said he literally took Super Bowl off the table as one of the greatest Super Bowls ever played. Yep. And I mean, you know, I got to thank Brian Olsen for that because I mean, yeah, was it a holding call? Yeah, but do you call it there? No.
No, and I
mean,
said that as a
got into one.
I said as a football fan, not just even as an Eagles fan, we were deprived of seeing this guy get the ball in his hands again. You know how we've all played on the street, Joey. 10 seconds left. It's the Super Bowl. You want to, we wanted to see that, and that freaking ref, man.
So
just had to be in the way.
I'm gonna chime in with, because this may come as a shock to everyone, but I'm gonna disagree with everybody about the Brian Johnson issue, and this is why. And this is why. 12 seconds. 12 seconds is how long an offensive coordinator has to get to formulate what play he's going to throw into the quarterback's headset. 12 and then it cuts off. So you got to understand, being an offensive coordinator in the NFL isn't as easy as people, make it. As high powered as this offense is, if you can't get the play calls in and you start to stumble and stammer with the right type of play calls, how many times in this city, especially in the Andy Reid era or in other eras, where we have said that is the most boneheaded offensive play calling I've ever seen, because it's not as easy as people make it out to be, especially with this high-powered offense. I get it. This offense conceivably could run on autopilot. We kind of feel that way with the talent, but you still need to have a coach that's able to come up with a good scheme throughout the game, throughout the course of the game, to make the best game plan work for the players on the field. So that's where, now look, that's not to say that I don't think Brian Johnson cannot become a good offensive play caller. I just think it's going to take a couple of weeks, just like Nick Sirianni took 10 weeks to figure out, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at managing all these different things going on and calling offensive plays. I need to take something off my plate. And when he did that, look at how it turned around. Now, Brian Johnson doesn't have that problem, but he still does have the problem of being able to concisely evaluating the situation and concisely being able to call the right play within 12 seconds.
But
That's,
Joe,
Joe,
it sounds to me like you're a little scared. You're a little scared of Brian Johnson.
I think
you need to go out and get a dog.
My question is, one, what has he shown you to not see that he's able to do that? Like, what evidence?
Because he hasn't really done offensive play calling since he was in Florida. Number one. Number two, the offensive play calling in college is much different than it is in the pros. The reason for that is because there's different ways, different sub coordinators that open up the ability to communicate to the quarterback what the play call is, even after the headset cuts out. That's part of the reason. Hand signals, signs. We've seen them on the sidelines for college all the time. The Eagles actually tried to implement that once before with the Chip Kelly era, and that failed miserably because you can't convert that into the pros. Now, that being said, again, I want to reiterate, I'm not saying Brian Johnson's going to be a terrible offensive play caller throughout the whole season. I think that he's going to struggle in the beginning. I think there are going to be some delay of games. I think there are going to be some really missed opportunities offensively. And we're all going to see it. It's going to be glaring. But the problem is what Brian Johnson's willing to do. As we've said about Jalen and his maturation and his progress, is Brian Johnson willing to mature and progress as an offensive coordinator? Because this is a bigger role for him to be in. So
but Joe, it's not like they're bringing somebody in. It's not like they're bringing somebody in from outside the organization to do this. Brian Johnson has been there.
Right.
He knows the recipe. He knows the recipe. he's got the same ingredients on the table. Actually, he's got a better running back room than he had last year for sure. And
that's all
I
well and good.
I don't,
but
he's
that's all well and good. But you
and
can
what
get
was
a
where
recipe.
was Shane Steichen? Where was Shane Steichen a coordinator? Where was Shane Steichen a coordinator before he became the Eagles coordinator?
Well, he was with
I'm
the
not worried
Colts.
about the Eagles offense, Joe.
So
I'm not worried about it.
here's my feeling is
Yeah,
that
but Frank was calling the
my
plays there.
no, I get that, but my feeling is this: you bring up about the fact that he knows the recipe. I don't care if you get a recipe from an Iron Chef. You could have a recipe from an Iron Chef and still mess up the dish, like that. Just because you have the recipe doesn't mean that you can cook it. Like you have to be able
Joe,
to cook it.
as somebody who excels in the kitchen, you get a recipe, and guess what? If you miss something in that recipe, yeah, it's not the same thing that was cooked, but you just made a new dish. I'm not worried about
Well,
what's going to happen with the Eagles offense.
I'm the
It-
least
I think
worried, man.
yeah, here's the other thing that
yeah,
I
that's
think.
not my worry. My concern is the defense because that's where they had the most changes in the offseason. They got 10 starters coming back on offense, and 4 of those guys are by
So
ESPN standards are considered top 10 players in the league.
I
So
I will
I am not worried about the Eagles
I
offense
will
at all.
I will
I wouldn't be
transition my
surprised,
question.
Joe. I wouldn't be surprised in the beginning if the offense did stumble, just because
Yeah.
you know
But
some
I
new
will
things that took
transition
place.
into
But
this.
as far as what you're saying, honestly, I think it's the opposite because, and here's the reason why. Last year it was pointed out. Might even say the year before, but definitely last year, that Jalen comes off the field and says, "Listen, I'm seeing this. Why don't we try to run this?" The other thing, and I think Frank was possibly and James was alluding to, and we got to remember with the Eagles offense, if it's working, they don't stop. Oh, I'm going to go back to Devontae. Oh, I'm going back to AJ Brown. Oh, I'm going
No.
back to Goddard.
Right.
So they'll keep running until you stop it. So I think that works in his favor. And again,
Right.
I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just like, it just seems a little far-fetched right now for me that he's going to be that far behind the 8 ball, if you will, as an OC, when I believe they're honestly working that stuff
No,
out as we speak.
He's been here.
Yeah.
Look,
and
so I'm going to
Jalen
transition
says, listen,
to what Frank was saying earlier. So my next
Mm.
question is, and my next biggest concern is for the upcoming Eagles season is how long will it take in your minds, how long will it take for this defense to gel? Frank?
Frank's got to
It's going to
struggle.
take the whole first half of the season. They're going to be fine because, you're going to see some serious growing pains in the defense early in the year that the offense is going to cover up. Okay, and it's going to take a while to gel because they have very young players in key positions, especially on the defensive tackle position and the linebacker position. But I have a new name for the Eagles defense, and it's the Bird Dog D. Because they're full of Georgia Bulldogs, and they're the Birds, so it's the Bird Dog D for me. And I think you're going to see the good thing about what the Eagles did is they took the best talent from that Georgia team, and those kids are now going to be playing together. God, by the time they're done here, they'll be playing together for 10 years. You're going to see cohesion on that defensive line and cohesion in the front seven earlier than you normally would in a transition year because of those guys playing together for 4 years before they got here. That being said, they are young and they're going to make mistakes. And this is where I think the Eagles offense is going to come into play because I don't think it's going to matter. I think they're going to be up 2 scores at the end of every first quarter this year. I just think the Eagles are going to blister teams. And that will make up for a million mistakes on defense and give that defense a chance to gel and grow in the first 8 weeks to get them ready because the Eagles season really doesn't start until week 11. And if they don't have their defensive game together by week 11, it's not going to end well for the Eagles. I don't care how good their offense is playing. It will not end well. So they have 8 weeks to get their act together.
So James, take your bright bulldog red glasses off for a minute, and give me your honest opinion of like how long you think your bulldog birds or
Bird dog.
bird
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 dog.
Bird
dog
dog,
D
bird dog D.
bird dog
Yeah.
D. Give me your honest opinion of how long you think it's going to take for them to gel.
Defensively, you were asking?
Yeah.
Uh, I would say so. Our bye week is in week 10. Am I right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yes, week 10.
After, I would say after the bye week, that's when the defense would start to gel. Because
Okay.
here's the thing about it is that the defense is like they're going to have a new defensive coordinator and a new scheme that is going to be a little bit shaky towards those couple weeks. But when I totally agree with Frank said on this one too, what he said that when it comes down to the season begins in week 11, that's when the stretch run becomes a reality. It turns like you turn those wins into basically like clinching the division and clinching that number one seed in X, Y, and Z. So I gotta say, after the bye week, they'll start to gel after the bye week and make their run.
So, James, this is a special question for you.
Sure,
Your Bulldogs are on this team on your favorite football team with the Eagles.
absolutely.
You got to pick a child. Out of all these Bulldogs, you got to pick one. Who are you picking? Who's your favorite?
You know, that's a tough decision. I actually like all of them. I mean, Davis is great. No one basically was the Steelers.
Look, every dad says they love all their kids. You have to pick one.
Yeah,
They're going
like I
to
said,
so the one that's going to go and make it and be the apple of your eye.
you know, I gotta go with the one I had with the jersey with Mr. Jacoby Dean.
Jacoby Dean.
Okay.
No question.
And that's
No
going to
question about
be
it.
interesting
Yeah.
because I think he's going to thrive as the defensive captain.
That's
I'll tell
my
you
that's
something.
my baby. Kobe Dean is my guy.
Yeah,
I'm a Jordan Davis guy. He's the apple in my. I like a guy that's that strong, that tall, and that fast. That's just like that's an annihilator in my mind. If that guy hits his potential, it's going to be it's going to be curtains for the quarterback.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of great players on that defensive front. I mean, obviously, we won't see a lot of Keely Ringo, but I think you'll probably see him depending on what they'll do with Terrell Edmonds and what they'll do with
if
Sidney
they go
Brown
get
and all.
Buda Baker,
And if they get Buda
all
Baker,
that, yeah.
right.
So, to kind of wrap
Correct.
things up
Need
really
Buddha.
quick,
I want to be
I have
Buddhist.
two questions. Number one, there was a report that was put out about Lane Johnson deadlifting 700 pounds.
It's amazing.
I'm just asking that this guy can pick up 2 defensive linemen on his own. Like 700 pounds. Like, guys, this is a guy that has come off of like hernia surgery and all these other big issues, and people thought, well, is he gonna still be an Eagle with all his injuries? The guy's deadlifting 700 pounds, for crying out loud. Damon, should defenses be scared?
Yeah, and he hasn't
Damn
given up a
right.
sack. He hasn't
Damn
given up a
right.
sack in
Should they be
3
scared?
seasons or 2 seasons. Yeah, nah, I would definitely be scared of Lane. Lane has come a long way in his career.
Ask Joey Bosa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with the PEDs and clean up from that. It's come a long way. Nah,
Well, you got the
Yeah,
wrong
I'll
Bosa.
be-
It's Nick Bosa.
Both.
yeah.
He's
Nick
Jones.
Bosa. Derek.
And the thing is, what you want is that you want that to solidify that side. And the Eagles are in a great position because the young guys are getting groomed by the veterans, and they'll just, transition nicely into the next phase. But I would definitely be afraid of Lane. Lane's a beast, man.
Absolutely.
He's on our team. He's ours.
They're,
Go ahead, Frank.
if Jordan Mailata can start start deadlifting that kind of weight.
Oh my God!
You know,
Why are you going to
look,
put pressure on Jordan to do that? That's just unfair.
because I have very high expectations for Jordan. I always
Well,
have.
he got weak legs. He just got
and the
married.
kid has always risen to my expectations.
His legs are weak, Frank. He just got married during my life.
Which I think is going to make. I know, but which believe it or not, I think is going to make him more dangerous because
makes your legs weak. Rock.
I think that's going to make him more dangerous because he's because he's going to settle down. I think in his personal life it's going to settle him down. It's going to bring him back to earth, and But as far as Lane Johnson's the best, since he's the best right tackle we've seen since what Runyon
Peters.
Since John Runyon, yep.
No,
John
Peters
Runyon.
left tackle.
Peters left.
Yeah, he's the best right tackle we've seen since Runyon. And Runyon was really good.
Really good. You got him from Tennessee.
Trey Thomas was a left as well, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Trey Thomas was a left tackle as well.
So the final question for the show, I wanted to get all your takes on it before we get going, is it's a problem that's going to have to be something Howie addresses going forward, and that is the Slim Reaper. And if you're Howie Roseman, do you re-sign him before the end of the season?
I already know what's going to happen. 2 weeks, 3 weeks into training camp, right before the season start, breaking news: Eagles and Devontae Smith come to a contract extension agreement, 4 years, 120. It's going to do the old Howie move right before the season start. This kid will be signed, in my opinion. I got that.
Yep, that's a fact.
I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that at all.
It's just the Howie move. It's what he does. He's waiting.
About that.
He's already shook his hand. They'll announce it before the season. He'll have his contract, and let's go play football.
I can tell you this: if they lock up Devontae, and they have the defense that they have for a while, and they have this offense for a while, this team is a huge threat going forward. And everyone, not just the NFC, the NFL should be put on notice. So if Howie does that before the season, Dame, that's not just going to make breaking news in Philly. That's going to echo all across the league like, oh, damn, we have a problem.
Well, the way Howie has built this team, with the youth that he's replaced older guys with, this team's set up for a 5-year run.
Easily.
And I mean a serious 5-year run.
You might get greedy and stretch it to a 10, but definitely a 5. Definitely a 5.
Definitely no. You're going to see prime time 5-year run. The cool part about that is 3 years into this next 5 years, the defense will be coming into its own where the offense is now. Imagine when those two trains collide on the same tracks. It's going to be good news for the NFL. You know, when you get the guys who are young and inexperienced now all on the same page with experience, running with an offense that's running like a squash. That's bad news for the NFL. Really bad news.
So,
and the only thing that's going to stop will be injury.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's something Dame said last year. The only thing that's going to stop the Eagles are the Eagles. And that includes injuries and mistakes and stuff like that. That's the only thing that's going to stop the Eagles is the Eagles. But that's going to do it for our show today. For my man, Frank Finnegan, Damon Salim, James Scores it behind the producer's chair. I am Joe Marks. Ladies and gentlemen, happy Saturday. Let's go Phils. Let's go Eagles. And we are out.
Happy training camp.